But in opening up China, coinciding with the end of the lease, Britain decided to start negotiating the future of Hong Kong in the late 1970s and early 1980s. And Margaret Thatcher famously flew to Beijing to discuss the fate of Hong Kong. And there are many plans in her mind.
The Iron Fist.
The Iron Lady of the West flew to Beijing to talk to these primitive Chinese to discuss the fate of Hong Kong. But Margaret Thatcher had the plan of, say, extending the lease. Perhaps you can hang your flag up, but we'll be the one administering Hong Kong. Lots of these kind of plans, you know. And according to urban legend, Margaret Thatcher flew to Beijing, walked through the Forbidden City, finally meeting Deng Xiaoping in a room. And in that room there were three people: Deng Xiaoping, his Prime Minister Zhao Ziyang, and also a translator. And Deng Xiaoping simply said, "Welcome to Beijing, Madam Prime Minister. We are taking back Hong Kong."
Right.
And he pointed to his own Prime Minister and said, "He will be one discussing the details with you." And he just walked out. So Margaret Thatcher was so shaken because she had all these ideas, right? She had all these ideas of like maybe extending the lease, maybe negotiating some sort of like shared sovereignty, maybe you hang your flag in China. She was so shaken that she said, "Give me a day, I need to come back tomorrow. I need to go back to my embassy and talk to my staff."
Well, I think this for people listening to this story, they should understand the mentality of Margaret Thatcher at that point.
Yes, because Margaret Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher, of course, is an Iron Lady of the West. But you got to understand, geopolitics is based on geography, right?
Right.
So if it's based on geography and based on the trends of empire, geopolitics dictates that no matter who's in charge, unless you are someone as good as Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore or Fidel Castro of Cuba, then defy geopolitics, right? Defy the trends of empire. Margaret Thatcher was going with the flow. And if you were going with the flow, if you were Margaret Thatcher, you would have said to yourself, if the communist Chinese wanted to take back Hong Kong, they would have done so years ago. They could have done what they've done in Tibet. They could have done what they did in North Korea.
Right.
They could have sent.
They can take it by force.
Right, and just walk in. Hong Kong would fall within 48 hours. You know.
Less, yeah.
So if you are leasing a place, you know, a lot of the viewers have been renters before, right? If you've leased a place, you like living in there, and your landlord has no intention, or at least given you no signal to kick you out, and he has every right to kick you out because basically the lease, that he can revoke at any time.
1999.
1997.
1997.
Yeah, but then
right.
Communist Chinese has never been very strong, at least up to that point, in the enforcement of contracts. And in fact, that particular contract, the Treaty of Nanking, the communists, once they were in power, even before they were in power, called it the unequal treaty that has to be overturned as a national priority.
Right. Even the Kuomintang called the same thing.
Right.
Those are the
unequal treaties.
Unjustifiable contracts.
Right.
Yeah.
That has to be overturned. So nothing is more effective in overturning it than by sending in a few 100,000 volunteers to overrun Hong Kong, right?
Right.
So if you were a leasee and you know that your landlord has not kicked you out, the most natural inclination is to ask for an extension of the lease, right? Just make it official. So she was quite shocked, and in fact she was so shocked, when she left the building that day, you can YouTube watch this, she tripped and fell on the steps of Great Halls of People out in Beijing. Right, you can YouTube this. In fact, I think the staff here can include that footage right now. But anyways, Margaret Thatcher thought that Hong Kong was useful to China. And at that particular juncture of history, when China was opening up to international trade, for example, to capitalism, it needed even more a hyper-capitalist, laissez-faire economy that runs on a common law system that can supply the know-how and the capital into China to rebuild this country. Right?
Right.
Margaret Thatcher didn't figure that Deng Xiaoping came and completely agreed with her and came up with a plan called One Country, Two Systems. One Country, Two Systems.
Now this never existed before. This is no joke. This is ingenious.
Right.
Yeah.
One Country, Two System effectively, and One Country, Two System will supposedly last 50 years from 1997 until 2047. So Deng Xiaoping basically said, this place remains a British colony with Victorian imperial values, with Victorian
I'm
imperial
not sure those are the
policies.
exact words.
No, I don't know the exact words, but that was
Yeah,
what it was
capitalism.
in effect. Right, that was what was supposed to be in effect.
Yeah.
For not only up until 1997, but 50 years after that.
Right.
So Deng Xiaoping positioned itself, once again, as the greatest protector of Hong Kong's luck.
This
You
is
define
luck
luck as that.
number 3.
That's probably luck number 3. Well, you gotta understand, Hong Kong with 0.5% of China's population, 0.5, was more than 20% of China's GDP.
This is huge.
Right, we're talking
Yeah.
about punching way above our weight. And it's not just economics, it's the culture. You know, our movies, our music, our language, our usage of words, you know, our terminologies was spreading in China. It was infecting all the Chinese communities around the world. Our soft power, it was during the age in which, ironically, Hong Kong intelligentsia, idiots throughout the ages, of course, the intelligentsia was kept calling Hong Kong as a cultural desert. That was at the apex of our soft power, you know. And anyways, Hong Kong's role was that, and in fact, it explains why. All the troubles and all the anger you can see in Hong Kong today. All the anger you see today is because Hong Kong's way of life, biggest protector, has always been the highest powers of the Chinese Communist Party. But unfortunately, with the reduction in the need of Hong Kong, Hong Kong's strategic position has decreased significantly, both because we internally implode, policy-wise. Take, for example, one of the most wanted commodities in China is baby formula, because milk powder in China is unsafe, according to Chinese mainland parents. The most natural place to buy, of course, is this great free port, Hong Kong. And yet the Hong Kong government stupidly put in place a baby formula export ban.
It's so stupid. You know, the very idea, the very existence of Hong Kong basically disputed by its own policy.
Well, if you of course, this policy wasn't implemented out of the blue by the Hong Kong government. It came by massive pressure of Hong Kong mothers because they wanted to be able to buy baby formula.
Yeah, but reality, you can ship as much milk as you want into Hong Kong.
The Hong Kong mothers don't even want to see temporary ban. So it is ironic that Hong Kong mothers have given birth for their own children. Their own children, because of the very demand that they put in place, has destroyed that magic in which made them unique, made Hong Kong unique, and therefore their own children would not enjoy, you know, the same kind of magic.
Actually, if I understand you correctly, you're quite pessimistic.
I am.
In terms, you're deadly serious about it too. That's what's shocking to me. It wasn't a joke. You, okay, Andrew, actually are so pessimistic. You say, hey, I had enough of this. I see no future. I see no further development in Hong Kong. What do you mean by that?
I would say that because we are talking about geopolitics here, right? We're talking about we were an accident of geopolitics. We were an accident of imperial history, and we remained part of a colony because of further knock-on historical accidents and great gamemanship by the British, right? And unfortunately, this is a trend, historical trend. Geopolitical historical trends, when they start shifting, this go back to my favorite historian, Neil Ferguson. Once that tectonic plate of empire moves, the boundary moves. I mean, I started giving this a lot of thought because I read his book on genocide. You know, his question was, why did genocide in the 20th century, why were they concentrated in various places? Why were there no genocide in Scotland or Argentina, but there was several times in Ukraine and Poland? And one of the key reasons he cited was because of this moving tectonic plate of empire. And you're seeing that in action. Hong Kong's, as a British Empire outpost, the empire boundary should have moved in 1940s, but it was kept in place artificially by, ironically, the power next to it, the mainland Communist Chinese. And nowadays, because Hong Kong's significance has reduced so much, in fact, the most person who understands all this is probably the richest man in Hong Kong, Li Ka-shing. Li Ka-shing, at the beginning of 2015, moved the registration of his two flagship companies, Hutchison and Cheung Kong, out of Hong Kong and into the Cayman Islands. Or the Virgin Islands. I can't remember.
Right. That's out of the control of the United States, out of the control of...
One of those islands. And the reason is because he can see it. He can
Right.
see that Hong Kong is no longer significant in the eyes of the Chinese Communist Party's ruling power, the ruling level. And if they no longer provide active protection to Hong Kong, through neglect itself, the lower ranked bureaucrats would run wild. And also, Hong Kong people, lacking the knowledge of playing this empire game, would implode the city, such as placing a baby formula ban into Hong Kong, such as placing a ban of investment by foreigners, i.e. mainland Chinese, into Hong Kong properties and real estate, for example. Right? Placing various bans on immigration into Hong Kong, placing bans on the practitioners of medicine, of law, of accounting coming to Hong Kong, and therefore ending the inflow of their expertise. You know, all these things are working together to implode Hong Kong, and yet all these things can only be resisted if there was active protection coming from mainland China's highest
Right.
powers, and they're no longer providing the protection.
Well,
Therefore,
right.
Yes, I can see it coming. But then, of course, I was still optimistic, because if there was one place with enough smart people, because according to the book IQ and the Wealth of Nations, Hong Kong has the highest average IQ in the world. This I give credit to our
Well, actually,
previous.
I have to agree.
This I give a credit to our previous immigration policy called the touch base policy. But you can go Wikipedia about the touch base policy. But anyways, if there was one place that can defy this, they can create someone like Fidel Castro that can defy the fall of the Soviet Union and remain communist
Right.
in Cuba.
Right.
If they can provide, if a place can create someone like Lee Kuan Yew, who became the father of the Singapore Republic,
Right.
Republic of Singapore,
Uh-huh.
that to this day is still practically.
Well,
run
that's
like a
not
British
going to
colony.
happen here, not in Hong Kong.
No. I thought there might be a chance. So I ran for office in November. I ran
Right,
for the
right.
local councils. It was no big deal. I placed much effort. I ran on a very British imperial values, colonial values policy platform.
Right.
Okay, and I lost. So I was so short of ideas as to how to save this place that I thought maybe I'll even put myself up as a possible solution. Of course, I don't call myself Fidel Castro or Lee Kuan Yew, but in the case of Fidel Castro, he needed a Che Guevara, right? And I just thought I might put
Well,
Che
it's
Guevara.
just- yeah, right.
50 years later, there might be American college students around the world that'll be wearing my silhouette, black and white silhouette on their T-shirts. I was just hoping for that. But I lost. The people have spoken. I failed to receive the public mandate. So if the people cannot rise to the occasion, then geopolitics will take over. And I'm not pessimistic. I'm just being a realist.
Okay.
Hong Kong's fate would either be China's Monaco or China's Puerto Rico. Depends on our fiscal.
Will it be
fiscal policy.
possible, aside from strong leadership, would it be possible that suddenly the central government of China, under the leadership of President Xi, suddenly realize what's happening in Hong Kong and alter this whole phase? Because Hong Kong still, today, we had our, when we started this program, I asked you about the core value. Okay, the core of value of Hong Kong, is the idea of capitalism. Let's don't get into the right or wrong. Okay?
Hong Kong's core ideal is to make sure it remains useful to neighboring hostile powers.
Got you. All right.
Capitalism
Because that is
simply
the thesis,
a means to that
the
end.
key. And do we still have that?
Unfortunately, I don't think. I think, of course, Hong Kong, the bureaucrats in Hong Kong, doesn't have that class. They have a different class. They have a lower class in playing this empire game. We're talking about, if you use a British term analogy, we're talking about, it used to be World Cup standard, right? The British imperialists played at a World Cup level, and now we're probably Division 2, Division 3. football skills. If you use an American analogy, it will be like the Brits played the NFL football game, right? And the Hong Kong bureaucrats nowadays are playing college Division 2. They have no idea. They have no high school level. They have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea the playbook.
Let me pat myself a little bit on the shoulder.
I went to Michigan. So I went to University of Michigan. I went to University of Michigan at the same time as Tom Brady. So I watched Tom Brady on the field in college, and he wasn't that good. But anyways, carry on. That was a side thing.
Zhang Zhenhua,
Yes,
right? We all hope that he might even be participating as one of our leaders in the future. Let's put it this way. I talked to him about 20-some years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I talked to him quite a bit. Okay.
Oh.
And don't ask me how, but somehow he visited the United States. I was there.
Well, you guys shared a bong or something.
We had a long chat.
Okay.
At that point, I was naively thinking about geopolitical problems in Hong Kong. All I've seen is that the entire Hong Kong, all the factories, the technologies, everything's being shipped north, shipped back to China. Hong Kong is left with a thin skull.
A shell.
Yeah, it's a shell
shell
where you can crack, and there's nothing in it.
Okay.
Other than a few people, and all I can see this ends running away.
What did he say?
You just gave me a scenario, okay, that this show is about to crack. How much reserve we have left?
Well, first of all, I'm curious as to what he would have said.
Well, as a good politician, he nodded his head.
Okay. But anyways, are there scenarios in which, because, as I say, we're an artificial construct. Hong Kong should not be run under a British common law system. Hong Kong shouldn't be running on a laissez-faire, Victorian era style laissez-faire economic system. Right? These are all accidents of history.
Yeah.
It was put in place first. It first remained in place by sheer British imperial will, and then it remained in place by communist Chinese imperial will.
It's no longer needed.
Right. It's no longer valued by them. Therefore, they are no longer putting the attention in protecting it. Do not think of the Chinese Communist Party as a monolithic entity. Its highest powers and its local officials constantly have tension. Right. So if the highest powers don't pay attention, the standing committee of the Politburo. If the standing committee of the Politburo don't pay attention, the lower rank official will start running wild, and that's exactly what you're seeing in Hong Kong. All kinds of weird. It's rational for them under their own game theory calculation. They should be pissing off the people of Hong Kong with their actions, therefore bolstering the support they get from the central government. It's very weird how their calculations are working out, but that's unfortunately the Nash equilibrium. If you are into economics. So, anyways, we are in the trend. I won't say that I feel like a Jew in Germany in the early 1930s. I won't go as far as that. But the trend is not a friend. The trend is definitely not our friend. The question is, do you want to give you a Malaya, Singapore scenario? Do you want to be in, say, Johor Bahru now, or do you want to be in Singapore now? Do you wish to move from Johor Bahru into Singapore when the British Empire fell? I can't give you an example in the Indian subcontinent, but or the Middle East, right? But these are the consequences of what happens when the tectonic plates of empire moves. I don't know if Neil Ferguson would watch this. If Neil Ferguson is watching this, Professor Ferguson, thank you very much. Especially at this point, if you're still watching it. But yes, I simply stole your ideas and extrapolated it to Hong Kong, which you should study into, because this is a really weird British colony that is supposed to be a British colony with British colonial values until 2047, by diktat of a dictatorial communist regime in China, and yet it's now fading away because this soft, acid washing of these kind of structures.
Well, I couldn't help but first of all, I feel sad to see you leave. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm emigrating.
And secondly, okay, I think that my thin skull theory will probably work out.
No, I'm not as pessimistic as you are. I mean, if Hong Kong, there's there are many rules against, say, starting a business. You would think that starting a business would be easy in Hong Kong, as what's his name in America always says. Crowdfunding in Hong Kong is actually illegal. Give an example. There's no competition in the IPO market. It's all run by one exchange. Highly regulated everything. So we are losing our crown. I mean, the shell is because within us there is a slow implosion going on, and there is no one that can.
Now listen carefully.
Like,
this comes from authority. The slow implosion that's going on. This is December
22nd.
December 22nd, 2015.
Well, I'll just add an extra point. You have the big two camps right now in Hong Kong politically. It's the pro-establishment camp, i.e. the blue ribbon, the one that supports the police and the government, and by extension, I guess, mainland China. That's what the press calls them. And then there's the yellow ribbon, the student leaders, the Democrats, the ones that says fight for universal suffrage. I'm sorry, but neither camps, as of this moment, can provide a solution to resist this moving of the tectonic plates of empire.
Before I let you go, I need to ask you one more question. What if, let's play the what if. What if Hong Kong government, this so-called new, what's it, the 4G, what would you call that?
The new, I don't know. They created a new cabinet position. They created a new cabinet position within the Executive Council of Hong Kong that is in charge of technology.
Whatever the advances they use, to me that's an advance. Okay, all I'm saying is, let us say that Hong Kong somebody realized the shortcoming, realizes losing its strength. What about the possibility, hypothetically speaking, you set up Hong Kong as a financial center, concentrate on it, and also set up as a movie-making center, concentrate on it.
The biggest problem is that this particular person, if you were to play the empire game on that level, we're talking about the Lee Kuan Yew kind of Fidel Castro kind of, it is extremely tough.
Somebody with vision.
Yeah, but because Hong Kong system is so rule based. This individual will find a hard time to emerge. This individual can't emerge. In fact, there is no yearning for this individual. People are dying for an answer, but even those who can provide an answer would be deemed not fit.
That's what I try to get out from you. Before you go.
The answer is, unfortunately, to go back to be as different to mainland China as possible. Whatever they don't do, we do.
Okay.
Right?
Because that distinguishes Hong Kong.
Yes, but unfortunately, that means that we don't provide protection for our elderlies, for example. We don't do any labor market intervention. We open our doors wide open to professionals around the world, doctors, lawyers, accountants.
Right.
We're talking about the non-enforcement of lots of laws, intellectual property laws for one, the non-enforcement of smuggling laws. Go back to basics. But to go back to that era is impossible now. Hong Kong people are just too efficient. Our bureaucracy is too efficient for anyone to actually put a stamp on the bureaucracy itself and say, don't move. The British did it by underfunding everything. We had a financial secretary. The current one is called John Zhang, right?
Right.
Zheng Zhenhua. But there was one in the 1960s called John Cowperwaith. And Cowperwaith believed that perhaps because of imperial politics, he underfunded even the statistics department. He didn't even want the government to know what was going on, just in case bureaucrats wanted to intervene. Maybe because he firmly believed in laissez-faire economics, right? The ideals of, say, Hayek or even Rothbard or even Mises or Adam Smith. But maybe he was simply playing the imperial game. If the government didn't know about the statistics, then our enemies wouldn't know, right? And therefore reduce their incentive to attack. It could simply be coming down to that. But that was how extreme they needed to take it. You know, we're talking about the end of the complaint culture in Hong Kong, whereby you complain to a bureaucracy, the bureaucracy would respond. You know, because back then the bureaucracy simply wouldn't respond. You know, so it is turning the clock back. I'm sorry, but the locally trained Chinese, Hong Kong Chinese administrative officers, the Mandarin, the bureaucrats of our system, doesn't have that wisdom to play this game, and it is an inevitability that we would be overrun, and this little accident of history will cease to exist.
Yeah, my worry, okay, judging from what you have told me as well as the audience, is when Hong Kong's reserve is bankrupt, or money gone 50%.
Right. We have a fiscal reserve that is about, I think, 40-50% of our GDP.
Right. And we're quickly spending them.
Well, we are still accumulating. We're still accumulating national. We are still running a fiscal surplus. But that is our final line of defense. The end of Hong Kong would probably come with a banking crisis caused by a asset price crash, most likely caused by a property price crash, that leads to instability in the banking system, and therefore bailing out the banks. The government will be conned by the bankers to just simply give them a guarantee, because the bankers will tell them that their assets are
and
no
we
problem.
can't print money like U.S.
Right, so we'll run out of money, and like Greece, Puerto Rico today, we will one day wake up and realize that our financial secretary can no longer access our tax department's computer. And when you lose the power to tax or control the taxation system, your country ceases, or at least your government ceases to have any real power.
Sad, isn't it?
That is it's not really sad, but at least you know, if you have the patience to watch this video, even to this point, I mean, this video is now
Don't worry,
in a territory.
I'm going to petition this into a few programs.
Okay. But
if
you have got to this part of the video and you're still watching it, at least be blessed that you have the wisdom to stay watching and get to know this fact or this future of ours.
What about even?
We had a good run. I mean, Dr. Bob, we have to, you know, I co-founded an institute called the Lion Rock Institute in order to promote the idea of the Lion Rock spirit, which is the laissez-faire economics that ran Hong Kong, that created, together with the touch-based immigration policy, one of the greatest economic miracles of the 20th century. We had 500,000 people in 1945 at the end of the Second World War when the Japanese surrendered. In 35 years, in 1980, our population rose tenfold. And yet in 1980, our 0.5% of population, compared to China, was already 20% of their GDP. You know,
what is it today?
Less than 3%. In fact, that was the exact statistic. Li Ka-shing's good friend, a female friend of his, called Solina Chow, quoted earlier this year when she advised the people of Hong Kong, you should change your mentality, because honestly, we're no longer that important, because we are less than now 3% of China's GDP. She said that not to belittle us. She said that with wholehearted sincerity and disappointment, because with the fall of economic importance and with the imploding of our strategic importance, of the lack of skills in playing that empire game, we basically removed all advantages. Well, not advantages, but we removed all roles in which we are unique in Hong Kong, and therefore this erosion will occur. I mean, it's happening on all fronts. Our salespeople in our retail shops now speak Mandarin better than Hong Kong Chinese. You look at our TV, the most watched TV channel in Hong Kong, for example, their shows are already beginning to seep in mainland Chinese usage of words with the erosion of the Hong Kong culture. The advertisement on these channels are already heavily influenced by mainland usage of words, because they're selling to mainland consumers, right? And you see all the violent struggles from Hong Kong. You know, the bomb that they discovered outside the Legislative Council. Okay?
Right.
It was like a puny, I don't know,
It was a joke.
It was a joke firebomb, right?
Yeah.
It was like a bottle of, I don't know, alcohol or something. right? But they arrested 6 people, right? The anti-mainland shoppers protests. These sort of typical violent struggles of when tectonic plates of empire shifts and when one group of individuals of the old empire is resisting the invasion of the new. This invasion might not be overt, but once this invasion reaches some, there's 3 particular qualities, right? The first, according to my Pele historian, Neil Ferguson, in order for genocide to occur, you have to have 3 qualities. The first one is moving tectonic plates of empire, which we have in Hong Kong.
Which we have.
The second one is we have 2 distinctive groups of individuals living in the same place. They might even be racially the same, like they were in Sarajevo, where in the mass graves they dig people out. They can identify clearly who they are because of medical records, but they don't really know which wave of genocide they will kill them because they have so many different facets to their character and identity. They could be a Muslim, but they happen to be a Bosnian, they happen to be a Croatian, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
so they don't know you don't know if he was killed because he was a Muslim or because he was a Croatian. Which waves killed whom? You don't know. But in Hong Kong, the same thing. We have 2 groups of distinct individuals. Those left over who carries with them the British colonial DNA and the new migrants that's arriving. And also, unfortunately, the children who are born to these British colonialists, right? I myself, I would give birth to this child. This child would not remember what it was back then. It wouldn't remember the days when the British didn't enforce, say for example, intellectual property laws. When the British didn't enforce, say, smuggling laws, right? When most famous signs in all the video game arcades was the one that says no smoking and no one ever followed it. People of Hong Kong of that generation don't know it, and they are now becoming the majority. We're talking about 2 or 3 million of them now, right? Within 10 to 15 years, they will be the majority. And these 2 distinctive group of individuals, the one representing the mainland China and Hong Kong, most important thing is when you have 2 distinctive group of individuals existing in a society, they have to view each other as Untermensch, subhuman. Okay? The pro-Chinese, the pro-mainland, pro-blind loyalty to the mainland government was the best because the mainland government is the best. Those individuals view these pro-democracy, universal suffrage, these colonial relics as foreign dogs, right? They are dogs that serve foreign masters and foreign ideals. And the other way round, those left over from the British, those waving their flags saying that we should, have the rule of law in Hong Kong and protect the, maybe promote universal suffrage, right? These individuals view mainlanders as what?
I don't want to name it.
I'll say it. Locusts.
Right.
So it fulfills the second criteria. First criteria being the moving tectonic place of empire. The second criteria being having 2 groups of individuals living in the same place. And the third criteria, which is coming, economic upheaval. That's what Neil Ferguson said, right? Economic upheaval. According to me, Hong Kong Chinese are very simple. When a bunch of money has been lost, economic upheaval usually comes with a banking crisis because something happened to the savings and the loans that was lent out.
It almost happened in the United States not that long ago.
Yeah, the savings and loans crisis.
Well,
right?
Bernanke came up there. What do you think happened?
But they don't. In America, there is no changing tectonic plates of empire.
Right. No.
It's not like you can argue.
But
that,
we have.
You can argue that Mexico is taking over practically everything in the South, right? But hey, that's an American problem, not mine. Hey, I don't want to do a Donald Trump, but you can build that wall. But in Hong Kong, you see it, and I don't know what's going to happen to China. Mainland China is going through. If you ask me, President Xi Jinping, since he gone to office in 2012, right?
Right.
His number 1 and sole mission, only mission, is to solve the bad debt crisis of China. Everything everything he announced is to solve that problem.
Right.
Even the environment takes a second seat. I'm sorry, when Beijing is covered in smog, that comes back.
Well, it came up the 2 crises already.
Because bad debt, my friends, nothing removes dictators from office faster than a banking crisis. But I will leave that for another episode.
Thank you very much for patiently watching, but you will be honored